part of the challenge that I have is that we are being inundated with like, look at all the ways you can do this. Except that AI will tell you to walk across the English Channel
Right.
as a
Right.
valid option.
Yes, it will give you the map.
It does not do math.
Yeah.
There's so many things. It's like it's not intelligence. It is pattern recognition.
Hello, and welcome to the Scientista podcast, where women in science rule. This podcast is all about supporting powerful women who lead with their brains. I'm behavioral scientist Dr. Shata Chakraborty.
And I'm former Assistant Secretary of State Monica Medina. The Scientista podcast brings you conversations with leaders, change makers, and cultural figures, sharing how they're turning facts and evidence into real-world impact. So let's dive in. Today we have with us Ticora Jones, Dr. Ticora Jones. I don't want to leave her out her very important title. She's the Chief Science Officer at the Natural Resources Defense Council, or NRDC, one of the nation's oldest and most respected environmental organizations. So anyway, welcome Ticora, and thank you so much for being with us
We're so
today.
excited to talk to you.
I
I
am
know.
thrilled to be able to talk to you all today, and thank you so much for the invitation. Glad we made it work.
Recently, and you left USAID before the devastation that Trump's second term caused. Early in this second term, it became the poster child for his, gutting federal agencies. And we ask our guests to be as candid as possible. And obviously, if you were at USAID for 15 years, then
Yeah.
you have thoughts
It
on
has been
this
heartbreaking.
Yeah.
as a chief scientist there as well.
It has been heartbreaking just for, so many of the people that I spent time with, so many of the programs that I built, so many of the partners that we had all the way around the world, and to watch how quickly it could go up in smoke.
Kind of amazing. I mean, you think about all the things that we used to just sort of take for granted, and they've just eliminated
They have gone away.
a number of agencies. This is probably the biggest and the most sort of public one, but so many and just gone in an instant.
And it seems that way. And, it's been frustrating to watch the lack of action on the part of congressional actors who's just like, wait, but y'all have the power of the purse.
Right.
Like you do have some
The agency didn't just
agency
invent
here.
itself either. Right?
And we've been bipartisanly supported this entire time. So how did we get here? And so this landscape that, we're operating in right now, I think back to, 2008. It was another election year. It was very exciting. And the senator that I was working for at the time did a tour with all of the interns and the fellows that were there as they were about to depart. And it was Senator Russ Feingold. He was a Democrat from Wisconsin. And we asked him at that moment, because remember, 2008, there was no Twitter. Facebook was sort of a thing, but not the same thing that it is right now. Instagram was not a thing. And some of us were still printing out directions.
Right.
And we asked him, like, you've been in office for, at that point, it was approaching 20 years. What is the biggest thing that has changed? And at that point, he said the 24-hour news cycle. Because when he started, there wasn't a 24-hour news cycle. And there was a level of like conversation and collegiality and whatever else. And the 24-hour news cycle essentially created the space where it's like, who are you actually talking to when you're in the room?
Playing to a camera.
And social media has made that so much worse because you're playing to this camera or whoever's in front of you with a camera. We've got two cameras right here. And it is fundamentally different in yet like an astronomical way from even just, 17 years ago when I moved here. And I say that and I'm just like, I've been here that long in DC.
It is
It
exciting.
feels very weird.
It really is.
Feels very weird. So, looking at what has happened right now and how quickly it happened at USAID, how much of that was exacerbated by kind of the rapid news cycle. Nobody has the attention span of more than 2 seconds. And the institution in and of itself, while it was an international organization, it didn't think of itself necessarily as having a domestic constituency. It does have a domestic, it did have a domestic constituency because there were lots of farmers who were very proud that their products were part of feeding the world. There were scientists at CDC who were very proud of being part of a global cadre of people who essentially were supported by USAID and other organizations to help stop global pandemics.
Right.
Like all of these things were possible, but all of a sudden it's not important anymore. Or it is important. It's just not going to be
Not
valued by the
not
people who are
recognized by
currently in
this
power.
government.
So it's been heartbreaking in the worst of ways. I'm really grateful that I'm still in touch with all of the people that I worked with. They were fantastic and amazing people.
Did most of them retire? Did they land
No,
in other places?
no. You know, I think about all of the mid-career people that I was working with, all the early career people that I was working with. And, you know, people are making transitions successfully, but that may be because they were part of the first wave of layoffs to
Because
really
it
hit,
happened early to them, and so they got ahead of
as
this,
opposed to
right, this group
people
that
to whom
now,
it's happening now.
right.
Well, thank you for talking about that so
Mhm.
openly. That's really
I
interesting.
mean, it must still be like being in mourning in a
It
way.
is. It is.
Because it was a vibrant agency full of people
Mhm.
and people all over the world. And, you read about some of the things that are happening now, like the destruction of some
Mhm.
contraceptives that were
Yeah.
just sitting, waiting to be distributed to
Oh,
And
we're
help
they
seeing the
people to
wouldn't,
ripple
fight
effects now,
and
AIDS.
they
for
wouldn't
sure.
And they
even
just,
distribute them.
they wouldn't even give
The
them out. They
HIV
just
medication that's going
destroyed them.
nowhere, the
The
computers that are
HIV.
going
Yep.
nowhere. You
It
know,
seems like a giant waste.
I mean,
And it
Yes,
must be really hard
exactly.
for those
it's
countries.
kind of
Like you've been
criminal.
in the countries
Um,
where they were waiting for those things and to see us just burn them.
it's insane.
It does seem like it
We could
makes
go
no
on,
sense. We could go
but y'all
on.
have like five other questions that you're still trying
We
to ask
do.
me.
We do. And our next question is about your current job with
Yeah.
NRDC. Talk to us about that. And why did you make the jump over to the nonprofit world after
Yeah.
having spent so much time in government? What was your motivation? And how's it working out?
So, I have survivor's guilt. Let's just state that up front. Because I left. But at the same time, going to NRDC was an opportunity to get back to something that I had actually wanted to do when I moved to DC in the first place. So because I have a material science and engineering, like undergrad and kind of grad school experience, I had wanted to work in energy and renewables when I moved here in 2008.
Oh, golly. So you put that on hold for a while.
Well, it wasn't that I put it on hold necessarily. It was also that in terms of actual action that was happening in those areas, congressional action that was happening in those areas, it got stalled. So the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act happened in 2008. But then, in terms of prioritizing either climate change or health and health insurance,
Mm-hmm.
health got prioritized and climate change got the back
Yep.
burner. It passed in the House, but it didn't pass in the Senate.
The
And
big
so,
climate bill of
right. And so,
2009.
like, the things that I moved here excited about potentially working on fizzled. And so that's part of how I ended up at USAID in the first place. It was like, all right, well, if that didn't work, then, there was this opportunity to interview for all of these other agencies. And that particular interview was insane because I didn't know what the job was. I was late to the interview because the
Oh,
person
God.
taking me from one place to another didn't know where they were going. I sat down and got grilled for like 45 minutes, and I got up from the interview and was just like, oh my God, that's amazing. I don't know what it is, but I want it. And like, that's one of those things when you think about, your life story and your
Right.
path, when you're just like,
The
yes,
accidental tourist. Like I
exactly.
showed up here and look, this was great.
That's totally what it was. But going to a place like NRDC, where they are focused on energy and environment and public health and nature and the international landscape that we are operating within, was an opportunity to get back to things that I was interested in and then kind of regrow some of those technical chops, though I haven't been able to do that as much as I wanted to, while still trading on the kinds of things that I built over time. So that's building programs, kind of doing startups inside organizations, building teams, creating processes that are about facilitating and creating for the wider world. Because when you think about how science happens, it doesn't just happen anymore because somebody is curious about something and they go exploring.
Miss those days.
Except that we are women and there's stuff that in those old days when people did that,
Fair enough.
We weren't always getting
we
Fair
weren't
enough.
necessarily people.
Yep.
right.
So, it happens because you've got funding associated with it. And how does that happen? Well, in this case, it happens because there are people in government who create programs to do stuff. And I was one of those people. And so I wanted to be able to get to a place where I could do that kind of creation, but in a way that was a little more focused domestically,
Hmm.
and a little more focused on the kinds of things that I was interested in when I
When you
originally came to
started.
DC. Yeah.
Makes
So,
total sense. And hopefully it's still going to happen, even if not at the same
I
pace.
mean, the states are interesting bodies and actors.
Yeah.
International landscapes are a little different. And what was so interesting about the similarities between NRDC and USAID is that, you're operating in international context, you're operating as it relates to the global level, country level, subnational levels, regions, all of those things. NRDC does the same kinds of things. It operates internationally, it operates federally, though it's playing defense federally as opposed to offense federally, state, local. And so that same kind of complexity was still there, which made it very interesting. But then I got the opportunity to go and learn something new. And so, when your subscribers and your listeners and your watchers are thinking about what it is that lights them up, for me it was the ability to continually try to do something new. Take the skills that I have, apply them in new places, do new stuff. Like
And you could define that, let's say, so this leads nicely to the next question. You could define this as like a science diplomat, right? So many different skills, and you're applying it to international development. And now in your current role, you're applying it to environment issues, energy issues. So how do you connect those dots?
mhm.
And can we just refer to you as a true science diplomat
I mean, sure, if you want to. It's fine. It's fine.
in
Um,
addition to scientista?
yeah, it's less about the specifics and of the technical area and more about the environment that you create, the connections that you make, the connections that you help other people make. Because sometimes it's not about you. Like it's not always about you. What is the we? What is the collective action that we are trying to come together and construct? And like that to me is what being a science diplomat, as you so helpfully call it, is about being able to create the kinds of spaces where people want to come together and make change.
It's interesting because I took this job at the State Department where science was part of the portfolio of my office. And science diplomacy
Mhm.
was seen as such a great tool of soft power, as
Yeah,
such a wonderful way for the US to collaborate on things like space exploration with countries where they couldn't afford a space program of their own, but where they could add measurably to our space program.
right.
And the collaboration in science is sort of universal because
Mm,
it doesn't matter whether your lab's in, Timbuktu or Topeka. You could, if you've got an idea and they've got an idea and the two ideas can work well together and can advance, then that's magic,
it
right?
is.
And I don't know, did you see that kind of thing happening at USAID? Were you able to
Absolutely.
foster that? Where were
Absolutely.
the science discoveries that you were sort of surprised by?
Well, I don't even only like think of it solely as science discoveries. I think of it also as like the technology and the entrepreneurial kinds of
That's
discoveries
what I
as
mean. Like,
well.
where was it?
So what was really interesting, one of the schools that we worked with, Makerere University, which is in Kampala, Uganda, wanted to essentially be able to build out their own innovation ecosystem
Mhm.
and their own way of working on that. And so part of what ultimately happened through the kinds of collaborations that we put together was they were able to essentially start their own, like not just coding boot camps, because like how that can get a little extractive,
Right,
but really creating spaces to essentially foster student and faculty problem solving for their own problems,
right.
because it didn't make sense to me to essentially sponsor only US students to
Students
go
going
around the
over
world,
somewhere.
somewhere, anywhere, to like, oh, I'm here to do things. And often they would come back with like, oh my God, I've learned so much. I'm like, I need you to start from a better place. I need you to start from I am here to collaborate. I am here to connect. I am here to be in partnership with. I do not need to lead. I am here. You are here. We are here. And what do we do? And so, like, those kinds of university programs that essentially focused on fostering more of the African innovation ecosystem through partnerships with US based institutions who essentially were sharing their models. They were like, we figured out how to do design competitions, and this is how we do it. And they essentially were like, okay, that works for us. That doesn't work for us. How do we do this? How do we foster this kind of culture of collaboration? Because there are so many ways in which people think innovation happens in a vacuum or like with a
Right.
single
In a
person.
lab, right? Like in
With a
some
single
Ivy,
person.
right?
And
Yeah.
I'm just like,
Eureka.
the way that mass media promotes this idea of like the lone innovator
Right, right. It's
is
crazy.
bullshit.
It
Yeah,
takes a village. We know it
it
takes a village.
does. I was blown away, actually. I'm going to step in here just for one more second and
Yeah.
say I was blown away in the time that I got to visit countries that I thought, oh, that same thing.
Mhm.
Bad me. Like here we are, the US, we're coming in to save the day. We're going to help. And I showed up and thought, there is an amazing group of students coming out of universities in Africa who are leaping in to their own country's problems and trying to innovate their way out of them. And what we need to do is learn from them.
And back
And
up.
listen
I
and
was
back up.
blown away.
Listen and back up.
Africa was such an optimistic continent
Yeah.
and the what people think of it here as, is so
It's
crazy
very
compared to what the
backwards.
real Africa is like. And
It can
I
be
was
very backwards.
just so in love with it. I
Yeah.
have to say, it was really fun.
And what was interesting for me was because I had not come from a traditional kind of, I was not educated in the traditional foreign affairs sorts of things. I was jumping in as a scientist. And for me, I
It's just a
knew
science,
it's
right?
just a science, but like you go to graduate school and there's people from all around the world
Right.
with you in your classes,
That's also true.
with you in your departments. And so I'm just like, oh, okay, we are going to collaborate. I am not assuming that just because this might be a lower infrastructure place, that it's a low resource place and a low ability place.
Sure.
It's not. You are required to innovate in fundamentally different ways when you don't have access to the same kinds of infrastructure that we have in the US. And let's be honest, how the US infrastructure is looking right now,
They're going to leapfrog us.
I mean, there's other places to go.
it's
And I will say it was the same in the Pacific. When the more I traveled around, the
Mhm.
more I saw that spark everywhere.
Right.
Young people, young scientists all over the world.
who were ready to dive into like, what can I do at home?
Yes.
And I think that, when I think about the world that we live in right now, and, what I hope people are feeling is how can I show up here in the US as we are in our crises?
Yeah. Truly.
Not how do I run away from it, but how do I show up?
Truly.
How do I bring my talents to it?
You are such an unapologetic communicator, just
Oh.
generally on everything we're talking about. It's so clear, but you're really good at translating science also. This is kind of how we met you, right? So
Yes.
we saw you speaking at South by Southwest in 2025, March of 2025, and you were really able to advocate for science for women as well. So why is this so important to you?
Well, because I think there are so many ways that either media or stories or other things have told us that it's not possible, or that that's too hard, or that maybe that's too messy. And I don't believe that. For a number of reasons, the most of which at this point, the biggest reason at this point is because I have a 7-year-old who I am trying to impart sufficient levels of agency and autonomy and like awesomeness within. I look at her, and what I want for her is a sense of adventure that is grounded in like, I can.
Nice.
And why the fuck should I not be able to if she ever watches this one day? I
This
don't
is a
know
Friday
that.
afternoon.
I mean, I don't know that she knows that mommy curses periodically, but I try to be good about it. And that's what I want for all of us, a sense of I can, a sense of agency, a sense of, I can build this understanding. It is accessible to me. And as I build that understanding, then what I choose to do with it is something that I have the agency to do. That's just important to me. I'm lucky. I'm like firstborn daughter with a dad who is just like, yes, you can. And a mom who's like, absolutely.
Amazing.
And grandparents on both sides. They were like, duh. So I feel really lucky within that. And I want to be able to pass that kind of support and appreciation on to other people because everybody doesn't get that.
How do you keep this can-do optimism up in this time when science is so under attack? Let me go right at the heart of the hardest question,
I want to lay
right?
down.
I know,
Talking about
sorry.
such intense things, but we're
Sorry, because
smiling.
I'm with you. We got to be optimistic. We cannot back down at this
Right.
moment, and we have to defend science. But how do you, as a scientist, think about it? Because it must feel
Give us the
even more
secret. We
personal.
need some of this.
Some of it is you were talking about authenticity. Some of it is about being able to ground in the moment and not look away from it. Because, it frustrates me when people only want to look at the moment and can't like hold in tension these two things that yes, this is the moment that we are in and there is a possibility for more. I think this is one of those things that's inherent to Black culture and Black diasporic culture, because there's lots of ways that
Right.
people have been in
Held back, pushed down.
challenging
Right.
situations, but have to hold that, like, I am a person, I have dignity, I am worthy of all of the things, even if the rest of the world tells me that I am not. And so I think some of it comes from there, but some of it also is just like, being able to talk about it with people. I think a lot of us have gotten very far down into the I'm on the internet.
Right. And I'm seeing something
I'm
that's
seeing that I'm scrolling the thing. No, like we need more time with humans to really test out like, does this work? Does this not work? Because the internet, while incredibly useful, some of it is a cesspool right
Oh
now.
yeah, that's for sure.
yeah.
Well,
I
that's
found
very
myself backing
powerful.
up.
That's really powerful, Ticora.
Back up.
We've come to our final question,
Okay.
which is basically, and
Oh
we,
wait, can I ask her one more?
yes,
I gotta
of
ask her one
course,
more
of
because we've
course.
got an expert here.
Uh-oh.
AI. AI is on everyone's mind. Talk about how NRDC is using AI and what do you think of it all?
Okay, I'm not going to talk about how NRDC is using AI. I'm going to talk about what I've done to help support us
Super.
understanding AI.
Great.
So, like, part of the challenge that I have is that we are being inundated with, like, look at all the ways you can do this. Except that AI will tell you to walk across the English Channel
Right.
as a
Right.
valid option.
Yes, it'll give you the map.
It does not. It does not do math.
Yeah.
There's so many things. It's like it's not intelligence. It is pattern recognition. And part of what I wanted to do for our organization is like spend some time understanding it and unpacking it for the whole organization. I didn't just want to do it for the people who were technical experts or the people who are advocacy experts. I didn't want to do it for, I wanted to essentially create some time for all of us to learn together. Because to me, that's another powerful way to be in community with people. You learn together as opposed to just kind of accepting the wash over. And so we've spent some time like really understanding like, what is this transformational change that we are in the midst of? We've invited a lot of different experts to come and talk to us. We've spent time thinking about the risks, the ethical harms, how it can be used to be more efficient in some ways. But are all the data centers that are being built actually necessary right now? Questions that need answers.
Right.
So we've been spending time in those spaces, and that's all I want to say right now. But it is
Okay,
an
to be
ongoing
To be
continued.
continued.
it is an ongoing exploration. But I thought it was really important for us to get smarter about it. And so I spent some time
Yeah,
with my team
can't disagree
getting
with
us up to
that.
speed.
Okay, so now
So
for
now
the
we're at
final
last
question.
question.
So the advice to women, especially women of color
Yes.
that are listening in, what would you say to them, especially as it relates to curveballs you've experienced in your career trajectory? How did you overcome that, and grow from it? What advice would you give to young women?
Find your people.
Okay.
Find a community of people. Find multiple communities of people. You should not be out here on your own. It doesn't have to be somebody that's in your discipline. It does not have to be somebody who is older than you. It can be peer mentorship. It can be any number of things, but you want a set of people that when that curveball comes, or when that professor says something sideways to you,
Yep.
or when you are trying to figure out what your response is because you are unsure about your status in X, Y, or Z, you need people. And it's so funny. We were at TNC's One Science meeting in November last year, and I'm on stage. I'm talking about my background that I had a polymer science and engineering degree, and there's this man in the audience who like looks up and it's just like, and afterwards he's like, I need to talk to you. His daughter was in the department that I graduated from,
Oh,
Wow.
wow.
and young Black woman in this department. And he was like, can she call? Yes, she can call me. We had this whole
Oh, that's
conversation.
so kind
That
of
is
you.
so great. Finding her people.
Yeah.
And, I was talking about like, yes, find your people, but I was also able to be like, yeah, this one, this one, this one, this one. Da, 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 da. And she was just like, they're all exactly the same. And I'm like, I know. I know. But you need people so that you're not totally in your head. You're not just on a computer. You need to find your people and be able to have those conversations with them, be able to create the safe spaces with them to figure out whether something is really like, do I really need to set something on fire right now? Or am I going to hold this observation and figure out how to navigate around this?
Nice.
That's
Do
great.
Sound advice.
everything is
Sound
not
advice.
worth going through.
Yeah.
And especially in this moment, how much energy you have is limited. And so you have to make decisions about what you're going through, what you're going around,
Right.
what you're going sideways on. You need to be intentional about it.
That is
And in order
such
to
great
do that,
advice,
you need your people.
particularly now. Particularly now.
Mhm.
Find your community. All right, Scientistas. We have this community, and we are so glad that you
Yay!
are with us today. Thank you so much for listening to the Scientista podcast. Thank you so much for being on the Scientista podcast. And if you like this episode, please share it widely. Let's find some more people.
Share and
PR
subscribe.
people.
Share and
Yes,
subscribe.
exactly. You can find us wherever you get your podcasts, and tell your friends, and be sure to share us and like us widely. Thank you.
And check us out at scientista.world for more stories, updates, and ways to get involved.